The digital generation, whatever that is, 8,561 pictures on our phones that prove that we exist. We want to be seen. Sharing, likes. They all worry about us, Generation Z. They say that every like releases dopamine, the same feeling as when we drink or take drugs, and that it's just as addictive. But in the end, everything is just relative. Looking from the outside in this bubble, why worry about taxes and payments? We change what we want to.
Gen Z can probably be recognized by always having a phone in their hand.
I would describe Gen Z as the generation that kind of fell between the analog and digital age. We did grow up with some technology, but it just started coming up as we grew up.
I think that the most distinct thing about Gen Z is that because they are on their phones all the time, they have a lot of knowledge about lots of different things. Like they are like kind of little icebergs that walk around.
We are privileged enough that we can find everything we need to know about and educate ourselves on topics that we want. And that's good, but it also really makes it easy for misinformation to spread.
I believe that we can change our opinions by reading articles or stories and get brainwashed if we don't first form our own opinion.
It sometimes feels like our generation is burning out and being sleep deprived because of all that information that needs to be processed.
I also find it hard to move away from all the information presented to me. You open your phone and you read that something horrible has happened somewhere in the world, and sometimes you just don't want to think about all that kind of stuff.
There's so much in the world we have to be aware of right now that's kind of like it floods our minds a lot with social media, everything. Everything is just like it's coming at us, like so much information.
The amount of information is so huge, and you can't possibly keep up with everything. So it can be very overwhelming, and it's just a lot to have this overflow of information. And I think that because it's so easy for misinformation to spread, that's not great, because a lot of people end up in these echo chambers where everyone just believes the same thing and agrees with each other, and then you never really learn, and that becomes your new reality. It's really easy to become radicalized or like an extremist, so that's not great. But I do think that having so much information is a good thing in the end, because you can just make up your own mind and find whatever you need online.
It can be a good thing that we're more aware of what's happening around the world. This way, there's a higher chance that we can make a difference.
For me, it's definitely important to be active in politics, and I think I speak for most of the people in my generation. We are really aware that the way we live now can't continue, or we will literally destroy Earth. Like, sorry, but that's what's happening. And of course, you can't do much as an individual, so you also need the system because they have more power and they can really make a difference.
I think it is the approach of politicians that should change. The interface of politics is a kind of old-fashioned. Information should be more accessible, which is already happening through activism over the internet, but still many valuable opinions and views of younger people get left behind.
Sometimes I'm pretty hopeless for the future, but I'm also sure it will turn out alright. A lot of what we got left by the previous generation is pretty unfixable, but we'll just have to find a way to live around it. I feel like especially our generation is really looking for solutions and new systems and ways of living to either fix it or live with the mess that we got left with.
I don't necessarily think others have done wrong. It's part of the system, like it's a way bigger problem than we think. And what we have to fix isn't like a physical thing that we can see. The process is like really long journey. Maybe my grandkids can finally see some results. So I think that a lot of people are taking their hands off the problem because they don't see the results. And I'm talking about problems like the meat industry, cutting down the forests, but also things like misogyny and many other things.
We as young people can make a change by being vocal about the subjects that concern us. If we aren't, it won't change.
I believe that there should not be any topics that I can't discuss with people. I think my generation also really doesn't care. Like, we will confront you about whatever topic it might be and get a discussion started.
Some things that are just normal for me, especially in personal expression or like opinions that kind of go against the established norm, like pronouns or not agreeing with certain systems we have in place. They're hard for my parents to understand. For example, the newer generation, I feel like, is very opinionated, and some older people that did not grow up with new personal freedom that we have now, I feel like kind of find it hard to understand sometimes.
We're up to date more than ever, but why is our generation so overstimulated and sad? Dealing with this overload of information, everything starts to have the same urgency. My peers showcasing their life, the ice caps melting. In these times, we choose an egg as the peak of our likes. Some days, filtering these stimuli can just get too overwhelming.